Okay, so today we are going to start the musculoskeletal system, and the first lecture is from the bone tumors. Okay, so you know that there are two types of skeleton from the anatomy. From the knowledge of your anatomy, you know that there is axial skeleton versus the appendicular skeleton. Now, what is the difference between the two? See, the axial skeleton includes the skull, the vertebrae, and the ribs, while the rest of the bones, including the long bones, they are included in the appendicular skeleton, including the pelvis. The pelvic bones are part of appendicular skeleton. Now, there are parts of a long bone. Especially in a child, we can see the different parts of a long bone which are important. First of all, there is the epiphysis. Epiphysis is the growth center, the part of the bone which is growing, which induces growth rather. And then there is the epiphyseal cartilage or the growth plate, or sometimes it is also called the physis, this one, between the epiphysis and the metaphysis. Then comes the metaphysis, which is the growing end of the long bone, and then is the shaft of the long bone or the diaphysis. These parts, they are important, especially with regard to the bone tumors, because there are certain tumors which present in only the epiphysis. Then there are most of the tumors which are present in the metaphysis, and there are only few which are whose origin is in the diaphysis. Okay, so and also you know that as the growth stops, the growth stops. Why? Because the epiphysis, it fuses with the metaphysis, and at that time the linear growth stops. Okay, now bone tumors are classified based upon the tissue of origin. If bone, they form more bone. If the tumor originated in the bone is forming more bone, then this is the first category. The examples include bone island, osteoblastoma, osteoblastoma, and osteosarcoma. So, if a tumor which is originated in the bone forms more bone, then they are called bone forming tumors. Now, the first three examples, they are the benign ones, and the osteosarcoma is the malignant one. Whenever the word sarcoma comes, it's the malignant one. The second category is the tumors which form more cartilage. They are chondroma, chondroblastoma, osteochondroma, and chondrosarcoma. Again, the first three, they are the benign, and the last one is the chondrosarcoma, is the malignant one. Now, osteochondroma, see in this name, both the osteo and the chondro components are there. That means it's forming both of them. It's forming the bone as well as the cartilage. Okay, and the cartilage forming tumors, they often present with calcifications. The third category is those bone tumors which form more fibrous tissue. And fibrous tissue is not dense, that is lucent in X-ray. So these tumors, they are lucent or black on X-ray. Examples include fibrous cortical defect, non-ossifying fibroma. These are the two benign ones. Then fibrosarcoma and malignant fibrous histiocytoma. These are the two malignant ones. Now then comes the bone marrow tumors, the tumors which originated in the bone marrow. These tumors include Langerhans histiocytosis, multiple myeloma, Ewing sarcoma, and primary bone lymphoma. Then there are some miscellaneous ones which don't fit into the above categories. These include, the examples include simple bone cyst, aneurysmal bone cyst, giant cell tumor. Then the next category is of the metastasis, the secondaries. Usually the metastases come from breast, prostate, lung, and kidney tumors. Then there are some conditions which mimic the bone tumors. They are not actually the bone tumors themselves, but the conditions resemble the bone tumors. What is the example? Bone infection, osteomyelitis. Now, how will you describe a bone tumor? In an X-ray, if a bone tumor comes to you, how will you know that this is a bone tumor, and how will you reach to a conclusion that what is the diagnosis? So for reaching the conclusion, you have to first describe the tumor. First of all, should know that we require two views mostly for bones in the musculoskeletal system. We require a frontal view, which is usually an AP view, and a lateral view for description, especially when we are dealing with fractures. Okay. Now, first of all, how will you describe it? You will describe in terms of morphology first. 1 minute, please. Okay, so we will describe in terms of structure, morphology of the bone tumor, whether it is a lytic tumor. Lytic means lytic by literal meaning. The lytic, the word means destructive, right? But here I'm talking about the appearance. The appearance will be either lucent, black, which is called lytic, or the appearance will be white, opaque, which is in musculoskeletal system. The opaque means sclerotic. Okay, white, right? So lytic can be further subdivided into whether it is a well-defined tumor or okay, and then comes the age of the patient. Now, age of the patient is really very important when we talk about the bone tumor. Why? Because there are certain tumors which are more prevalent in less than 30 age group. Like for example, when I will talk in terms of the individual bone tumors, I will tell you the age. So all of the tumors have their specific age brackets. That's why it's important to ask the history of the ask the age of the patient in history. Then comes the localization of the lesion, whether the lesion is originated from the axial skeleton or from the appendicular skeleton. Why? Because if it is in the axial skeleton, then most the chances are more of a secondary of metastasis or of systemic disease. While if it is in the appendicular skeleton, then the chances are more of primary bone tumor, and then again which part of the bone that is involved, that is important, whether it is the lesion is the epicenter of the lesion is in the epiphysis or metaphysis or diaphysis, right? So these three things: morphology, age, and then location. Now then comes the zone of transition. Zone of transition means the margin of the tumor. The margin of the tumor with the normal bone. If the margin of the tumor is well defined, then we say that there is a narrow zone of transition between the abnormal and normal bone. So if the margin is narrow, or you can say if the margin is well defined, there are more chances that the lesion is benign. And if the margin is wide, or you can say the margin is ill-defined, then there are more chances that either the lesion is a malignant tumor or it is you're dealing with acute infection, osteomyelitis. Then comes periosteal reaction and its types. What is periosteal reaction? Periosteal reaction, you know what is periosteum? Periosteum is the outer covering of the long bone, of the bones, right? So whenever there is a tumor or fracture or any insult to the bone, the periosteum or the outer covering responds to that insult. How it responds? It gets proliferated. This phenomena is called periosteal reaction. So I will tell you what are the types of periosteal reaction in the later part of this lecture. Then cortical destruction. Cortical destruction, whether present or absent, is an important point to consider, because if there is cortical destruction, then chances are that either you are dealing with acute infection or you are dealing with a malignant lesion, malignant bone tumor. Then the other one is the soft tissue component of the tumor present or absent. Then whether you are dealing with a single lesion or there are other such lesions present in the skeleton. For example, If you are having multiple bony lesions which are similar to each other, then either you are dealing with metastatic deposits or you are dealing with a systemic illness. Then this is not a primary bone tumor. Okay. So important points to consider were these two. Now, so again the same, we will consider whether it is lytic lesion, if lytic, well defined or ill defined, and if not lytic, whether it is sclerotic. Now we'll consider also the age, whether it is less than 30 years or more than 30 years. We will consider the location in terms of whether it is in the long bone or it is in the axial skeleton. If it is in the long bone, we will consider whether it is in the epiphysis or metaphysis or diaphysis. And then there are some miscellaneous things to consider like periosteal reaction present or absent, cortical destruction present or absent, whether you are dealing with a solitary or single lesion or there are multiple such lesions present in the visualized skeleton. Now zone of transition, this is again the same thing as I told you. Narrow zone of transition means a well-defined border, okay? And it is a sign of slow growth, slow biological activity. Sclerotic border, if present, especially indicates poor biological activity. So that means if a lesion is having a sclerotic border like this, if a lesion is having a sclerotic border, then that means it's most likely a benign lesion. Okay. And if the lesion is lytic with a sharp margin, again you are dealing with benign disease. If the lesion is lytic with irregular margin, we say it has a wide zone of transition, then that means you are dealing with aggressive lesion. Aggressive lesion means two things. Aggressive lesion includes acute osteomyelitis and it includes malignant bone tumor. Okay. Then comes the okay, so these are the three X-rays, three bony lesions with narrow zone of transition, or you can say with a well-defined margin. Based upon the morphology and the age of the patient, these lesions are benign. And also, you should notice that in all these X-rays, see the epiphysis. This is the epiphysis here. This is the X-ray of the knee, which is including the bone tibia and fibula. See, both epiphyses are unfused. What does that mean? That means this X-ray is often of a child, okay? Or maybe like an adolescent, rather less than 20 years. So these X-rays, all of these, they are of less than 20 years because you see here also in the X-ray shoulder joint, the humeral head epiphysis is unfused, okay? And in this X-ray of ankle, this is the tibia, this is the fibula, both these epiphyses, they are unfused, okay? So if you see unfused epiphysis, you already know the age of the patient. Okay, wide zone of transition. Wide zone of transition means an ill-defined border with a broader zone of transition. That is a sign of aggressive growth and it is a feature of malignant bone tumors as well as acute osteomyelitis. Again, the same thing that eosinophilic granuloma and infections, these are two things which can lead to wide zone of transition in addition to the malignant bone tumors. So see here, this is wide zone of transition. You are not sure where the tumor is ending and where the normal bone is starting. That means the tumor has ill-defined borders. So see in the X-ray also that you are not sure about the margin up till where it is extending. So this is an aggressive giant cell tumor. Although the giant cell tumors are benign tumors, but this one is an example of aggressive variety. These are three lesions having wide zone of transition. See, margin is not clear, and again also see this is a line running along the bone. What is this? This is periosteal reaction. Okay, this is periosteal reaction. The overlying periosteum proliferates in response to the underlying bone tumor. So this is called periosteal reaction. Okay, so what is periosteum reaction? Periosteal reaction due to the periosteum being irritated by a malignant tumor, benign tumor, infection or trauma. So there can be many causes of periosteal reaction. It can be a tumor, it can be an underlying infection or it can be trauma. Trauma obviously will result in a fracture and that will lead to periosteal reaction. It can be benign or aggressive. What is aggressive one? Aggressive can be multi-layered, lamellated, or demonstrates bone formation perpendicular to the cortical bone. This is called sunburst type of periosteal reaction. Sometimes there is a Codman's triangle. What is Codman's triangle? Codman's triangle refers to an elevation of the periosteum away from the cortex, forming an angle where the elevated periosteum and bone come together. See this. These are the different varieties of periosteal reaction. So first of all, the number one is benign. Benign one, see, this is a solid type of a periosteal reaction. Then comes the laminate. This is called lamellated, or it is also called onion peel type of a periosteal reaction. If you cut onion, if you peel the onion and then you cut it, you can see that there are many layers of onion. Okay, from that layers, this periosteal reaction, it gets its name. That this is called onion peel type of a periosteal reaction. Then comes the sunburst type of a periosteal reaction. This is called sun ray appearance or sunburst, where the bony spicules, they are perpendicular to the long axis of the bone at right angle. Then comes the Codman's triangle, where the edges of the periosteum, they are raised, where the base is flattened. So the edges, they make an angle with the base. If both the edges are elevated, it will form a triangular appearance. So this is called Codman's triangle. Okay, now we'll see some individual, when we'll discuss some individual bone tumors which are important. Okay, so osteoid osteoma. Osteoid osteoma, the age is from 20 to 30 years. There is a male preponderance of 3:1. All the bone tumors are more common in males. Okay, involves the diaphysis of the long bones. More than 50% cases occur in proximal femur and tibia. Spine involves the neural arch and cause neurological. See, so if the osteoid osteoma, it happens to occur in the spine, it will involve the neural arch and then it will lead to neurological symptoms. So what is the radiological appearance? Radiological appearance is an oval area of radiolucency, a blackness, with surrounding sclerotic margin and a central opacity. Hallmark is that the patient will complain of night pain, nocturnal pain, which is relieved by aspirin. So see, this is X-ray of the tibia fibula, and what you see here, you only see an area of sclerosis with some expansion. Sclerosis means whiteness. Okay, the same terminology we used in chest was opacity, opacification. In the musculoskeletal system, you will say this is sclerosis. Okay, so if you see the CT scan, this is of the different patient. This is CT scan of the hip joint, and this bone is the femur, and see the epiphysis not fused, then that means you are dealing with a patient who is less than 20 years of age. And you can see there is a lucent lesion with surrounding area of sclerosis, and inside the center of this lucency is another opacity. This opacity is called nidus. Okay, so this is three component: lucency with the central opacity and surrounding sclerosis. Okay, and since there is much surrounding sclerosis, so on X-ray only sclerosis is visible. This lucency is not visible on X-ray. Why? Because it is masked by the surrounding sclerosis. Okay. Then comes the osteoblastoma. Osteoblastoma, the age majority is less than 30 years. Location is the spine and flat bones. So see, in every tumor, I'm telling the age and I'm telling the location, right? So that means they are more prevalent in specific age groups. They are more prevalent in specific locations. And the imaging features, they also tell you diagnosis. So what is the imaging features? The imaging features of osteoblastoma, they include area of radiolucency, again blackness, considerably larger but well defined. And the size is about 10 to 12 centimeter with marked sclerosis. Okay, next comes osteosarcoma. It is very important. Osteosarcoma, the age is usually from 10 to 25 years. Males are more affected. Location is more commonly around the knee joint, involving the metadiaphyseal regions of the distal femur and proximal tibia. Poorly defined lesion which is showing bone destruction, cortical destruction, soft tissue mass, and aggressive periosteal reaction, which can be sunburst or Codman's triangle. Bone biopsy should be done for definitive diagnosis. Remember, for all bone tumors, the definitive diagnosis is by obtaining the tissue is by bone biopsy, except for aneurysmal bone cyst, where you will not take the bone biopsy. I will tell you later why you will not take. But for all other bone tumors, you will diagnose it. The definitive diagnosis is by bone biopsy. So this is a large aggressive this X-ray is of the shoulder joint. Okay, and what you see here is destruction of the humeral head and the adjacent part of scapula by a bony tumor, which is producing more bone. See, this tumor is producing abnormal bone. That's why it is osteo. That is why it is osteosarcoma. That is why it is bone forming tumor, because it is forming more bone. Okay, but that bone which is formed now is abnormal in texture. It's not normal. Okay, so it has a wide zone of transition. How? Because you cannot mark the margin where the tumor is ending and where the normal bone is starting. So not only this is having a wide zone of transition, but also it is associated with a large soft tissue mass as well. There is a mass associated with cortical destruction, with periosteal reaction. And what is the type of periosteal reaction? This periosteal reaction is called Codman's triangle. The arrows they're pointing towards Codman's triangle. And this periosteal reaction having the new bone formation, this is called sunburst appearance, like sun rays which origin from the sun. Okay, so sunburst appearance with Codman's triangle. This is osteosarcoma of the humeral head. Okay, now next comes the cartilage forming tumors. The tumors which will form more cartilage, it will later undergo calcifications. 20 to 50 is the age group, that means adult now. That is the middle age group. 50% they occur in the bones of the hands. So location is more commonly in the bones of hands, the medullary cavity of the phalanges. 10% in the feet and 20% in the other tubular long bones. Imaging features, they will include a well-defined area of radiolucency in the medulla, thinning and expansion of the cortex, but there is no destruction. Since it is a benign tumor, so there is no cortical destruction, there is no soft tissue mass, and important, so this is the phalanx, the middle phalanx of the middle finger, and what you see here is an area of radiolucency with expansion. This phalanx, this part is slightly expanded. Okay, and along with expansion there is also, see, in the center there are spots of calcification, flecks of calcification. They are called popcorn calcification, as if you have placed some popcorns over the lesion. Okay, why they are present? Because this is a cartilage forming tumor, it will undergo calcification, I told you. So this is called enchondroma, and the location is most common location is the bones of hands. Okay, now if enchondroma occurs in a long bone, then it will not be radiolucent. Then it will present with only flecks of calcification. This is the diaphysis of a long bone, and what you see here is flecks of calcification. You are not seeing any lytic lesion or any lucent lesion. Okay. Osteochondroma. Osteochondroma, the other name of osteochondroma is cartilage capped exostosis. Mainly in the tubular bones, it can be sessile or it can be pedunculated. Imaging features of the pedunculated variety include a bony outgrowth. Okay, I will tell you what is that. If yes, so in this X-ray, this is the X-ray AP view of the knee joint. Okay, this is femur, this bone is tibia, and this is fibula. Now see, from the femur there is a projecting lesion, a bony projecting lesion which is pointing away from the adjacent joint. Which is the adjacent joint? Knee joint. Okay, so it is pointing away from the adjacent joint, and this bony lesion, the cortex of the bony lesion is continuous with the cortex of the parent bone from which it is arising, and the medullary cavity is also continuous through a bony defect, right? So this is the pedunculated variety of osteochondroma, and what you cannot see here is a cap of cartilage. Why you are not able to see it? Because cartilage appears dark on all radiological modalities. Remember this point. Cartilage, it appears dark on all radiological modalities, including X-ray, ultrasound, CT scan, and MRI. Okay, so you cannot see the cartilage cap here. Why it is important? The cartilage cap is important because the diameter of the cartilage cap, if exceeds above 1 centimeter, it can be pre-malignant. It can lead to malignancy. What is the malignancy? Chondrosarcoma. Okay, so this cartilage cap is important, and you need to perform an MRI to see the thickness of the cartilage cap. So this is an MRI. Okay, this MRI is telling you the cartilage cap here. This is the lesion. Okay, here the lesion is more of a sessile variety, not of pedunculated type, but the lesion, if you see the diameter, it is less than 1 centimeter. So this black thing is the cartilage here. Okay, so this is the cartilage cap. If it is less than 1 centimeter, that means there are less chances of developing malignancy. So what is the next investigation for osteochondroma? The next investigation should be an MRI. Okay, chondrosarcoma. Chondrosarcoma, majority of the patients will be from 30 to 70 years. Pelvis and ribs are the commonest locations. The imaging features include a poorly defined area of radiolucency with a little periosteal reaction but a large soft tissue component. So any irregular bony lesion arising from the pelvis with a large soft tissue component, and if the lesion is destructive, then and the patient is from 30 to 70 years, then probably you are dealing with a chondrosarcoma, right? The lesion also includes some calcifications or ossifications, and it can have a lobulated appearance, which is sometimes called cauliflower appearance. Okay, cauliflower is a term called zahra in Arabic. Okay, so that vegetable appearance, the cauliflower appearance, this is what you see in pelvis. This is an X-ray of the pelvis, AP view, showing a destructive lesion which is destroying not only the pubic symphysis but the superior and inferior pubic rami, the ischium. Okay, and it is extending into the pelvis. Okay, it can have an intrapelvic component, it can have an extrapelvic component. I'm talking about the soft tissue component, the soft mass associated with it. Right, so this is called chondrosarcoma. Again, what is the next investigation? Next investigation here will be biopsy. You will diagnose it with the help of biopsy. Gold standard will be biopsy. Okay, simple bone cysts now. These are bony tumors which don't have any specific origin, okay, about which we are not sure of the origin. So first and second decade, from 1, or you can say from 0 to 20 years, from an infant to 20 years, that is the age group. Males are again more commonly affected. Pathological fracture is a major complication. What is a pathological fracture? Pathological fracture means a fracture which develops on the background of a disease, of a bony disease. Location is intramedullary, metaphysis of long bones, they are most commonly affected. Since it is a benign and especially the proximal humerus, more than 50 to 60% of the cases are from the proximal part of the humerus. So what are the imaging features? Imaging features are, so this is an X-ray of the humerus, and if you can see the epiphysis here, it's not fused. That means again you are dealing with a patient whose age is less than 20 years. So what you see here is there is a well-defined lesion which is lytic, or you can say lucent or black, right? So a lytic lesion which is well-defined with a pathological fracture. If you can see the cortex here, it is broken. Pathological fracture, there is no intralesional calcification. Intralesional calcification means within the lesion, within this bony tumor, you are not able to, you don't see any calcification, right? There is no soft tissue component. What you see here is a small bony fragment, which is originally the fragment of the cortex, which has been broken down. and this is floating in the cavity here. So this is called fallen fragment sign. If you see a lytic lesion, especially in the humerus, with a pathological fracture and a fallen fragment, then most probably the diagnosis is simple bone cyst. Okay, and if you see the epiphysis is unfused. Now, next comes the aneurysmal bone cyst. Aneurysmal bone cyst is more expansile as compared to the simple bone cyst. It's expanding expanding the bone more than the simple bone cyst, and it is not having any pathological fracture. Also, the location is not central in the bone, rather eccentric. What is eccentric? Towards one end, not in the center. Metaphysis is most commonly affected and the age is the same. Age is from up till 20 years. And that means when you see the bone, see the epiphysis. If it is unfused, then you have got two possibilities. Okay? Simple bone cyst or aneurysmal bone cyst. So if you are dealing with a lytic lesion, which is in the metaphysis of an unfused skeleton. If you see the skeleton, the epiphysis is unfused, less than 20 years age, then most likely you are dealing with either a simple bone cyst or you are dealing with an aneurysmal bone cyst. See the location. If it is the proximal humerus, most likely again simple bone cyst, if it is with a pathological fracture also. Okay, so these are some points of differentiation. How will you differentiate? What is the next investigation? Next investigation is not bone biopsy. Why? Because bone biopsy is contraindicated in aneurysmal bone cyst. Why it is contraindicated? Because from the name indicates aneurysmal bone cyst, this is a cyst, or you can say it's a lesion having multiple aneurysms, multiple dilatations of the blood vessels. So if anyone does a biopsy, it can lead to fatal bleeding. It can lead to catastrophic bleeding. So you will not do a biopsy, rather you will confirm your diagnosis with the help of MRI. What will MRI tell you? MRI will tell you fluid levels. Okay, see, this is an MRI. This is fat saturated MRI. What do you mean by fat saturated? Fat saturated means that you have suppressed the fat. That's why the bone appears black to you. Okay, both these bones, this is tibia and fibula, they appear black to you, but there are, see the lesion, this is the lesion now. What is the appearance of lesion? Fluid component, where some of the fluid is white and some of the fluid is black. Why it is so? Why it is not of the same color? Because blood of various ages, it appears differently on MRI. If it is fresh blood, the appearance is different. If it is old clotted blood, the appearance is different. Okay, so since these are aneurysms, some of the blood might get clotted in the aneurysm because of stasis, so the appearance will be white and dark. Okay, so they will form a level. So fluid levels are seen on MRI. Now if you see fluid levels, the diagnosis of aneurysmal bone cyst is confirmed, right? If you don't see the fluid levels, then that means you're not dealing with aneurysmal bone cyst, rather you are dealing with simple bone cyst. Okay, so this is how you can differentiate the two. Next comes the giant cell tumor. Giant cell tumor arises again from the metaphysis and typically extends into the epiphysis. Most common location is around the knee. 50 to 65% of the giant cell tumors will be in the distal femur or the proximal tibia. So that means if you are dealing with a lesion in the knee joint and the lesion is benign and the patient is more than 20 years, you are probably dealing with a giant cell tumor. Okay, distal radius, sacrum and vertebral body, they are the next preferred locations. Narrow zone of transition. All these lesions, including the simple bone cyst, including the aneurysmal bone cyst and the giant cell tumor, all three have narrow zone of transition. That means all three have a well-defined margin because all three are benign. Okay, majority of the giant cell tumors are benign. There are some exceptions in which the giant cell tumor can undergo malignant transformation, where you call it as aggressive GCT. GCT stands for giant cell tumor. Okay, so this is X-ray of the knee joint. This is femur. This bone is the patella here, and this is the tibia. So inside the tibia, you can see there is an eccentric lesion. What is eccentric? Towards one side. Now this lesion is not in the center, not here. Okay, towards one side. This lesion is actually in the lateral condyle of tibia. The lesion is lucent. That means it is lytic. You can say lucent or lytic, and there are well-defined margins of the lesions. The margins of the lesions are well defined. Okay, there is no pathological reaction, there is no calcification, there is no soft tissue component as well. And if you see the epiphyses are not visible. If the epiphyses are not visible, then that means you are dealing with mature skeleton. The age of this patient will be more than 20 years. Okay, and you know that a benign bony lesion, which is in the mature skeleton, is most likely a giant cell tumor. Now, so this is X-ray. Next comes the X-ray of the wrist joint. So this is the radius bone, and this is the ulna. Remember, the bone which is expanded, which is having a greater diameter at the level of the wrist, is the radius. So in the radius bone, there is a well-defined area of radiolucency without any calcification, without any fracture, and it is expanding the bone. See the epiphyses? Not visible. If the epiphyses are not visible, then that means the epiphyses have been fused. You are dealing with a patient whose age is more than 20 years. So in a patient more than 20 years, diagnosis will be giant cell tumor. However, the differential diagnosis of this bony lesion will include simple bone cyst and aneurysmal bone cyst. Okay, Ewing sarcoma. Ewing sarcoma is typically seen in children between 10 to 20 years of age. Usually it's a large tumor. Large tumor with destructive pattern. It's a destructive tumor, soft tissue component is there, and the periosteal reaction is typically onion peel type of periosteal reaction, which is multi-layered periosteal reaction like this, or the periosteal reaction can be sunburst. Sometimes the Codman's triangle, they are also visible. See, so these both X-rays, they show that the lesion originated from the diaphysis. Majority of the previous bone tumors were from the metaphysis. So this Ewing sarcoma, the epicenter or the location is mostly diaphysis of a long bone. When you will see the epiphysis, they will not be fused. That means you are dealing with a unfused skeleton, with immature skeleton. So this is the Ewing sarcoma. Okay, and in Ewing sarcoma, the differential diagnosis will also include osteomyelitis. Why? Because the clinical history of the patient is not like a typical tumor. The history will be that the child will be ill. He might have fever, anemia, leukocytosis. These features, they are the features of infection. Mostly leukocytosis, fever, these are the features of infection. So the radiological differential diagnosis of Ewing sarcoma can include osteosarcoma because the same age group and the same radiological appearances. Although osteosarcoma is arising from the metaphysis mostly, metadiaphyseal region, but Ewing sarcoma arises from the diaphysis. But the clinical features, they resemble more of infection, acute infection. Okay. So these are the two differential diagnoses. Now osteomyelitis. Osteomyelitis refers to inflammation of the bone that is almost always due to infection, typically bacterial infection. Pyogenic osteomyelitis can be acute or chronic and more common from 2 to 12 years. Location is most commonly the lower limbs. Earliest changes, they are seen in soft tissues with swelling and loss of blurring of the fat planes. Early findings can be very subtle. It can be overlooked. So changes, they may not be obvious until 5 to 7 days. So what are the earliest radiological findings? Regional osteopenia. Osteopenia means loss or reduced bone density. So in the region of infection, there can be reduced bone density with a subtle or very like less appearing periosteal reactions. So see, this is X-ray of the bilateral legs of a child. And what you see here is, if you compare the two sides, if you compare the two tibia, the left tibia is normal looking, while the right tibia is having focal bony loss, focal loss of bone along its medial aspect. Along with that, there is a periosteal reaction. So these are the only findings of acute osteomyelitis. These are the early findings. Okay. And what is best for, what is the modality of choice for osteomyelitis? MRI. Because MRI will not only be able to diagnose it early, but it can also show you the complications of osteomyelitis. What are the complications of osteomyelitis? Complications include the soft tissue complications as well as the sinuses, fistulas, and the fistulous tracts. They are all visible on MRI. Chronic osteomyelitis. Now, chronic osteomyelitis is more common in adults, and there are three radiological appearances which are important. First of all is the sequestrum or the dead bone. If you see the sequestrum or the dead bone will be more dense than the normal bone. Why it is more dense? Because it loses its blood supply. Whoever loses its blood supply in the bone becomes more dense. So dense bone here. Along with that, there is cloaca formation. Cloaca, what are cloaca? These are the openings in the bone. And these openings are intended for evacuation of the pus. So cloaca along with sequestra, and along with that there is involucrum. What is involucrum? Involucrum means new bone formation. Okay. So there is loss of bone happening through the cloaca in the form of pus, and there is dead bone which is called sequestrum, and then there is new bone formation also going on, and this new bone is called involucrum. So these three phenomena are happening at the same time, and these are visible on the radiological images. Okay, so this is X-ray lower limb, X-ray of the femur. This area is the metaphysis. So what's happening here is an ill-defined, if you have to describe it, this is an ill-defined bony lesion with cortical destruction and periosteal reaction, and there is a wide zone of transition. The age is less than 20 years. So what is the differential diagnosis? Differential diagnosis of this appearance can be two. First of all, it can be acute osteomyelitis, and secondly, it can be an osteosarcoma. Why osteosarcoma? Because the age and the location favors osteosarcoma. Along with that, there is cortical destruction and new bone formation as well, periosteal reaction as well. Okay, so bone biopsy can confirm the diagnosis, and also the clinical history, because history in osteosarcoma will be a painless hard swelling, while in osteomyelitis the history will be the patient will be having pain, signs of inflammation going on, which is redness, swelling, and along with that he will be having fever. So these are the two differential diagnoses of this lesion. Okay, we come to the end of this lecture. If you have any questions regarding the bone tumors, you can ask me now.